Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Inspired and Empowered Living TV show and podcast. We are live Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern on talk4tv.com, w4wn.com, and my YouTube channel. And today we continue with part 4. The steps, I have a sneeze that wants to come. The steps to an authentic life and business, part 4. You'll discover what it is you need to do to be able to become more authentic. You'll understand how to go from inauthentic, which you may not even realize that you do, to being your authentic self. And you'll discover how to express this in ways that will support you to be able to become more of your authentic self. I'm your host, Nancy Deutsch, licensed clinical social worker, certified hypnotherapist, and intuitive breakthrough expert. And I combine my counseling, coaching, and intuition to transform your life. So this show is not a replacement for therapy or counseling. It is for educational purposes only. So let's talk. When we talk about authentic, what does that really mean? And I know that we're deep into part 4, but I always, for those of you who may be tuning in for the first time, I always like to review what is authentic. Authentic, your authentic self is the part of you that is real, that is true, that is genuine. And when I talk about your authentic self, I am talking about the part of you that I call your superconscious mind. It's the part of you that I call your higher self, that wise, unconditionally loving part of you. It is your soul, the core energy essence of who you are. You are, at the core of who you are, is pure light and love. And you have skills and characteristics. And your soul wants you to express itself. And that is your authentic self. Seems my allergies are getting to me. So, I don't know what's going on. All right. Well, I'm human too. So, okay. So let's talk about ways that I had created a list of ways you could be inauthentic. And then we're going to go over how to transform that and be authentic. And as always, if you have any questions, you can always type them into the chat. So, you don't need to, when you are in a relationship, or you're in relationships all the time with the people in your life, whether they are family or friends or co-workers or work or clients. And what's really important is learning to express your wants and your needs. And a lot of times you may shut down those wants or needs thinking, oh, I don't want, and we were talking about this last show. Oh, I want to avoid conflict. I don't really want to share. Et cetera, et cetera. But what happens is that when you are not expressing your wants and needs, now, of course, the first thing before you can express your wants and needs is gaining the clarity of what your needs and wants are. Like what feels true to your heart? Because the way that you are connecting with your authentic self is through your heart, through your feelings. When you feel that joy or peace or passion or excitement or love, all of those are emotions of your soul and your heart. And those are your authentic self's truth. And so it's learning to discover what your needs, wants, desires are, and that's the self-awareness, and then being able to clearly communicate those wants, needs, desires to the people in your life, and to do it in healthy ways. And so you want to be able to do that in a healthy way. And healthy ways are owning your feelings, owning I am feeling blah, blah, blah. And I really been getting in touch with what my needs are in this relationship. And what I really need is when we're in conversation, you're really allowing yourself to be present with me. Now, if we need to come up with a time that works for both of us, totally get it. So let's schedule a time and let's come up with, because I want to hear where you're at and I really want you to hear where I'm at. So that would be like a healthy conversation. And that is what you want to bring forth. When you're in your authentic self, you're able to share and express yourself in those healthy ways. And when you are being your authentic self, now there are people in your life, and I like to look at the people in your life, and each person in your life, there are going to be people that are your deep connections, the people that you really trust and you can share more of who you are. And I'm hoping that you all have those kinds of relationships, because those kinds of relationships are crucial for inspired and empowered life and thriving life and business. So you really want to be able to have those core supportive relationships where you can be you. Now, there are times where you may have more superficial relationships. And when you have more of those, then I want to invite you to assess of those relationships. Are they really relationships where perhaps you may be able to go deeper? Maybe there's ways to explore depth in those relationships. And you want to um, be able to like really experience deeper, more intimate connections and make choices of the relationships in your life, relationships that are working and relationships that are not. Now, in your business, you are, when you're in your ego and you're not in your authentic self, you may end up feeling like you may end up being pushy, or people perceive you as pushy, or they perceive you as inauthentic. And it's really going to be important for you to come back to that authentic you so that you can then share from that authentic self. And The other way is you want to overcome your fears and your fear of judgment. And I see Misty wrote in, and I'm going to get to your question, Misty, as soon as I finish this thought. So, your fear of judgment, when you have that fear of judgment, that is actually coming. And one of the ways that you can define inauthentic self is the ego. Now, the ego wants to protect itself. It wants to, it can be, it's that part of you that needs healing. I call the ego the wounded ego. And I really believe on a psychological level, we all need healthy egos. And that part of being authentic is learning to have a healthy ego. But when you're in that fear of judgment and you're judging yourself or you're judging someone else, you're not in that authentic place. And the way to get there is learning acceptance. It's learning to accept yourself and learning to accept others. So that's really crucial in that becoming more authentic. So Misty says or asks, are all relationships worth going to a deeper dive in? And if not, should you drop the relationship? So this is what I'm going to. So, not all relationships are worth going to a deeper dive. And what you want to do, um, so, I talk about the three minds. So, I'm going to get into the three minds. And thank you, Misty, for the question. When you have your conscious mind, and your conscious mind is you tuning in, whether you're tuning in live or another time. So thank you, conscious mind of yours. And your conscious mind makes decisions. And it's your conscious mind combined with your superconscious mind that's going to make the decisions of what relationships to keep and which ones to let go of. So it's about learning assessment and discernment of your relationships. Now, your subconscious mind, every relationship that you have, whether it's in your life or in your business, is serving some kind of purpose. Now, in your subconscious mind, you have limiting beliefs and emotions from the moment you were conceived to present time. And what happens is you learn certain ways of being, and this is also about that inauthentic. You learn certain ways of being, you learn certain strategies of living, but they may not be effective to who you really are, and they're not necessarily effective for your authentic self. So, learning to assess in your subconscious mind, because what happens when you get into a relationship, whether it's in your life or in your business, it's about looking at what is it that this relationship, what need has it filled? And it's learning to understand the needs of that relationship. Now, as you get healthier, as you grow, as you expand more into your authentic self, there are going to be relationships that are not going to be serving you anymore. And if you're holding on to those relationships because of obligation or because of shoulds or have tos, this is about you asking yourself, what are you really getting from that relationship? Is this relationship potentially, can it serve your highest good? Can it serve that authentic self of yours? Or is it a relationship that needs to be let go of? And that's about you taking time to understand, number one, understand the relationship. and the purpose it's serving, or the purpose it was serving when you formed that relationship in your life. So as you grow, as you heal, as you change, you become more of who you are, your needs change. You change. Remember, this is a journey. And so, who you were when that relationship began, at that point, it may have served those needs. And then you need to look at, is this a relationship that can still serve those needs? Or is it a relationship that maybe you need to let go of? And the way that I would ask or invite you to pose the question is this relationship, or is me continuing this relationship for my highest and greatest good? Now, just because a relationship has challenges, it doesn't mean that you have to let go of it. It may be your teacher and what you need for your highest good. Or it may be a superficial relationship that you've been hanging on and maybe you'd be better off letting go. So, the way that I invite you to look at whether you drop the relationship or not is, again, tuning in what need it originally served. Can it fulfill needs now in who you are and who you're becoming? And is this relationship for your highest good? Now, this may take some work on your part, because ultimately it's about you getting clarity about what is it that's being, again, what they're serving, what you need, and is this a relationship that can fulfill your needs? You may discover. Now, here's something I invite you to do. Suppose you've lived at a certain level of um, surface level, and this person may or may not be able to go deeper, but you don't know that. Now, this requires you to be authentic or vulnerable, and it may feel a little scary. I'm not saying it wouldn't be, but maybe it's about you expressing more of who you are. Like, I'll give you an example. When there, um, Susie, somebody that I've worked with, and when Susie had this relationship in her life, and they had a certain level of communication, and it was, I would say, it was more surface level. But as Susie began to heal and change and grow, what started happening is she started expressing more of who she was. And she started expressing more of her authentic feelings and her needs, desires. And what started happening surprised Susie, because what started happening was that she started seeing this person open up to her too. Because sometimes what happens in relationship is you need to be the one to take the risk. Now, this person that Susie was in a relationship, even though it was surface level, there was the ability to go deeper. And that's what I encourage and invite you. And you may not know that until you try it, until you express your authentic self. And then you may see if it can work or not. So there may be possibilities where you may not realize it, and you may need to take the risk. Now, if somebody is really toxic or really negative or really demeaning or not healthy, that's a different story. And in order for you to take care of yourself and set the boundaries, you may need to drop the relationship. So if it's that kind of case, then I support you in dropping a relationship that doesn't serve you and that could be really toxic for you, because that's not going to help you, not going to support you in your authentic self. So Anastasia has a question. Can you grow out of a relationship, and is it worth holding on to if both people grow? Absolutely. Okay, so if if yes, you can grow out of a relationship. And so there's two possibilities that may happen in relationships if both people are on the growth path. So if you are both on the growth path, there may come a time in your relationship where your both of your needs have changed, and you need to and your needs, like where you began in the relationship, has changed. And now who you are and who you're becoming is different, and who they are and who they're becoming is different. And so you may make a decision, and hopefully it could be a mutual decision, that now if this is a romantic, like it's different if it's romantic and if it's friendship. Although both of those situations, if you had two healthier individuals, you can do it on healthy terms. Like, you know what, maybe right now it would serve us to part ways. Now, if you're both on a growth path, and the relationship has changed and the needs have changed, however, you're both growing, and there's a possibility that you can grow together. And as you grow together, then you can create these amazing experiences, whether this is a romantic relationship or a friendship. You can create these amazing experiences that open up new possibilities for both of you as individuals and in that relationship. And I'm not just talking about romantic relationships, I'm talking about friendships and close friendships too. So, uh, being on the growth path is definitely a good sign if both of you are willing to grow. Now, if one of you is willing to grow and the other one isn't, there that can be tricky, because they may not appear. How do I say this? I'm going to give you another example. So Jessica and I worked together, and when Jessica and I first met, she was in a relationship. She was actually married, and she was angry, and she wasn't sure she really wanted it. She was thinking about divorce, and she wasn't really sure she really wanted to continue the relationship. And then what happened was as we started working together and we started working on her issues, and she started healing the anger, and she actually made a decision to stay in the relationship. And this person, even though he was not in therapy himself, he was still willing to grow. He was still open to growing with Jessica. And so if somebody is willing and open enough to grow with you in whatever way, then the relationship has a good forecast. And if not, then that's when you need to look at, is this relationship for my highest good? Now, if you're angry at somebody, just because you're angry, that doesn't mean it's like stop, end. Again, you want to work through your anger, your issues, and ask yourself, is this relationship, is to continue this relationship for my highest good? And that's what I invite you to ask. Relationships are our greatest teachers. They're our greatest teachers. So, and again, if you have any questions about anything that I said, I invite you to ask questions. So, and we talked about this in terms of a way that you can be inauthentic. You is striving to please, or being a people pleaser. And when you are wanting to be authentic, you want to come from your truth and your purpose. And even though you may strive to please, you want to come from purpose. You want to be able to really connect. What's the highest good? What's the purpose of this, of what's going on, or the situation? So it's learning to do the self-care and say no when you need to say no, and say yes when you really want to say yes. And I know we talked about that on other shows. So again, control and perfection. If you're doing any kind of control or perfection, that's inauthentic. Anytime you try to control yourself or someone else, you're being inauthentic. And when I say controlling yourself, it's like things have to be this way, or you have to do it this way, or it should be just so. That's the perfection piece. So there's this controlling piece. And if you're doing that, then you are not being authentic. You're being inauthentic. And then you want to come to that place of being able to come from that place of truth. And there's this place of trust and surrender in your with yourself, and trusting yourself more, learning to trust yourself more, and also learning to trust your higher aspects of self, and learning to trust God or the universe. So all of that is part of it. And when you are looking for the inner, when you're looking for external validation, that approval, that a love, or you're doing things for approval or love, then you are looking, that's your inauthentic self. That's not being authentic. And when you are being authentic, is you're coming from that love, and you actually are able to give to yourself and give that internal validation, having that inner knowing, inner trust, and inner love of yourself, so that you don't need the outside approval. And when you are dimming your light, and you're dimming your light, and you are not allowing yourself to shine and really allow yourself to be seen, to be heard, to be understood, that's not your authentic self. That is that wounded part of you that's scared. And learning to really open to shine your light and express yourself and express your truth is part of being authentic. So let's talk about some more steps that you can take to be authentic. So, steps to discover more of who you are. What do you do? So the first step, and I've talked about this before, this is crucial. It's having the awareness. So, excuse me. So, if you are doing some kind of behavior, and I went through this list, and I took time to go through the list of how you may be inauthentic, because you may not have realized, oh, that's me being inauthentic. I didn't realize that. So I'm hoping that I'm bringing awareness to those places and spaces that you may not have even realized. And having that awareness, becoming aware that, oh, I'm not being authentic. I am not being authentic with myself, and I'm not being authentic with others. And then learning to touch base and learning to tune in. And one of the greatest ways to do that is through your body and through your feelings. So your body gives you clues about things that are happening or what you're feeling. And when you tune into your feelings, then you can allow yourself to uh, become more of that authentic self. And then it's learning, once you become aware of being your authentic self, like what's really going on, what are your wants, what are your needs, what are your desires, then it's learning to express them and communicate your authentic self to others. Like what happened with Susie, is she didn't know that this friend and her could grow together until she started communicating more of who she really was. And that is the possibility of what can happen as you become more connected with your authentic self, and then you start expressing it with others. And then, and here's the thing. Again, this is going back to, if you're not in touch and if you're feeling something, but you shut down and you say, I'm fine, I'm fine. And you're really not fine. I mean, people can pick up your body language and they hear your voice, and so they know. So it's learning to be able to tune in. And this is also an example of how you can actually become more aware of what's going on for you. Because if you're starting to feel something in your throat or in your heart or in your stomach, a lot of my clients, they feel stuff in their stomach, like the fears, the butterflies, but it's not the positive butterflies, it's the fears that come up. So those are all signals to be more aware. And it's learning to be able to ask for help, to ask for support. It's learning to be able to tune in and know when you need support and help. And then the third one is learning to become more in alignment, is really learning to align with who you are and align with your truth. And being in that alignment, being in that space, excuse me, of alignment, is being able to start taking the actions, to choose the relationship, to choose the strategies, whether in your personal life or in your business, that align with who you really are. And you want to make sure that you're dropping the shoulds and the have tos, and you're choosing the want tos, or what is your heart calling you, or what is the highest good? How can I serve? How can I make a difference? And you're coming from that perspective. And then again, remember, this is a journey. It's not a destination. And you are on the journey. And I really want to acknowledge you for being on the journey. So congratulations. And I really want to support all of you that I have a guided meditation that you can use to help you to uncover in that awareness. If there's places where you're not sure, am I being authentic or am I not being authentic? you can use this meditation to get clarity, because it takes you through clearing, connection, and then you get to communicate with what we call the higher self that I talked about in the beginning of the show. So the guided meditation, and you're going to go to inspiredandempoweredliving.com/meditation, meditation. So inspiredandempoweredliving.com, the name of the show, .com/meditation. And you can download that meditation that will really support you in becoming more into your authentic self. So, and there, let me just feel into and see if there's anything else that wants to come through about this. So, what I really want you all to know is that, again, this is a journey, it's not a destination. And that even if you take baby steps on the journey and step by step, using that place of awareness, to tapping in and tuning into who you are, taking time to be connected with yourself, and then the awareness, and then being able to express yourself in authentic ways, and learning to live more from alignment, and being able to be in that alignment so that you're coming from the place of authenticity. And I want to thank you for being here and being on the journey with me. I'm really grateful to you. And thank you to all of you who write the questions in. And thank you for all who are listening or viewing live and who are listening or viewing at a later time. And I want to invite you for next week for more inspired and empowered living. And inspired and empowered living. And we are live on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern on talk4tv.com, w4wn.com, and my YouTube channel. And you can also check out the podcast. And you can check out the podcast on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple, Pandora, Amazon, and many more. And I wish you all an inspired and empowered day, night, and week. Have a great one, everybody. Bye for now.